Hello, I'm Cindy Burkhart. I'm a realtor here in Citrus County, Florida. Love to help if you're a buyer or a seller. Today we're going to talk about flood zones in Citrus County, what buyers need to know. So, what flood zones mean? So, flood zones indicate the level of flood risk. So, what's the chances of your property flooding, your home flooding, maybe just a portion of your property flooding? Um, And what does that affect? Well, that affects insurance for sure, financing, because they're not going to lend you money if it's, sitting in a really bad flood zone. And it also has long-term costs that could be associated with that property that sits in the flood zone. So, not all properties require insurance that sit in flood zones. There's certain, you could own 50 acres and, there could be a portion of it that has a flood zone, but your house might be quite a distance away from that and it sits really, really high on a hill. So are you going to have flood insurance? Probably not. So, how do they really affect the buyers? Insurance costs. That's the biggest one. So the insurance costs are the big one. Everybody knows that, if you're closer to the coast, you better be able to afford that flood insurance. Whether you're financing or not, if that water comes in, it can really ruin you, even if you own your home outright. So if you are looking at using a loan or a lender, most of them, depending on what that flood zone level is and how often that flood could occur, they are going to require some good insurance, and that can be very expensive. So, the other thing that you want to think about as a buyer is what's the future resale of a property that sits in a flood zone? Now, I've had some buyers that say, don't even show me anything unless it's not in a flood zone because they already know the expense that it carries for that flood insurance, or if it should flood, or who wants to worry about when that storm is coming? Oh my gosh, here's another one this year. And am I going to flood twice? I mean, I just started working on my house, so that never feels good. So, buyers often worry that, a flood zone can mean that it's going to happen over and over again. It can. In some instances, I've seen it where it's happened 2 years in a row for some people. So, but there are properties that have never flooded, that maybe show a little bit of a possibility of a flood zone, but they never flooded. So you really kind of got to get some history now. And each property really should be evaluated individually because we're not all equal. I mean, they all have their own footprint or whatever you want to say. They're all different. No two pieces of property are alike. So as far as expertise, it really helps to have an agent who knows how to read the flood maps, who has connections that can find out what that property's history is. You know, at one point was it in a flood zone and now all of a sudden it's not. Some of that stuff matters, and they do change the flood zones over time. Sometimes it's to your benefit, sometimes not so much. So, understanding the details help buyers make informed decisions. So, you really should talk to somebody if you are considering a property that may sit in a flood zone, or a portion of it sits in the flood zone, how that might affect you. So, they don't have to be confusing once you get a basic understanding of how they apply. And how, it can help you be more confident in the piece of property that you're purchasing once you understand those flood zones and how they work and how they're considered and how it might affect you. So, if you want to dive deep into it, we can dig up a few maps. I can show you the different levels, the different abbreviations to some of the terms and what they mean. And we can talk to some local experts that if there's something that I don't know, we definitely can find those answers. So if you're thinking of a property and the flood zone doesn't scare you, let's go. Let's go look at it. Let's see what it's going to entail. If you're looking at a property and you don't want a flood zone, go that route too. So give me a call if you're thinking about buying or selling, and I'm here for you all the time. I'm a full-time agent that works all the time. My phone number is 352-601-8627. I hope to talk to you soon. If you need me, just reach out and call me. Here for you. All right. See you on the next one.